Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Guinness World Records Gamers podcast. My name's Mike, and with me as always is Luke Wakeham, our records manager of the gaming variety, and our pair of trained freelance games journalists, Jack Turner and Andy Loughlin.
Always wonder what you're going to end with when you say pair of.
Yeah.
Always brace for the worst.
Pair of classic gents.
There it is.
So yeah, we've got a great show this week for you. Slightly shorter than last week. I didn't have time to do our boss fight quiz this week. Sorry to disappoint you guys. However, it does give us a little bit more time to talk about some of the big news of the week, including Star Wars games being cancelled or not, or however it might be. We'll get to that in a second. Some cool Fortnite news from this week, and of course Mortal Kombat, which will comprise our on the record section. So we're going to be talking to us about some of the classic Mortal Kombat records to celebrate Mortal Kombat 11 being kind of revealed, as it
Classic
were.
spelled with a K.
Classic
Nice.
with a K.
Good
All right,
one.
on with the show. Okay, so shall we start with what we usually start with, what we've been playing before we get to the news?
Yeah.
Cool. So, Jack,
Hello.
I think you've been playing probably the most timely game of this week,
Yes.
which is Ace Combat 7, right?
Yes.
Which has been getting some good reviews.
It has, yeah. Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which guys are
Yeah.
those?
Well, actually, the skies are the skies of Strange Reel,
Ooh.
which is not a place I've made up. It's a place they've made up because that's where the game and the whole franchise is set. It's an alternate universe, which is much like our own universe, but it's a little bit different. So
Certain countries have a letter taken out of them and things.
So basically, there's two warring factions. One is Ocean, and the other one is how do you pronounce this? Eurisia.
So what are they kind of analogues? What are they analogues for in the real world?
Good guys and bad guys.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's as simple as that.
America and something?
Yeah.
Is Eurisia the bad guys?
No, you work where you live in Ocean, and you fight for Ocean against Eurisia. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Apologies.
You can't really pronounce made-up countries wrong, can you?
That's true. Who are they to say what's right and what's wrong?
Sounds like a medical procedure, doesn't it? Or like an ailment, doesn't it?
So you play a guy called Trigger, which will.
Only fools.
It's good they found some.
Trig, play it cool.
It's a weird choice for Band Aid
They
man
should
guy.
have called him Maverick and I'd done with it, really.
Well, actually, the game is very Top Gunny, which I'll get onto.
Lots of flybys.
Lots of flybys, lots of very swirling music to get you.
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins doesn't make an appearance.
Oh, erotic.
So this is Ace Combat 7, which suggests it's the 7th game. It's not.
Yeah.
There's about a million of these games in the franchise, but this is the 7th.
It's the 7th one they'll admit to.
Yeah. And it's the first Ace Combat game on current gen platforms, so it's been a bit of a wait for this one. And this game was
on VR.
and on VR. So this game was supposed to come out in 2017. So fans have been. This is the sort of franchise that fans absolutely love. They've been like chomping at the bit to get hold of this. Now it's out. So like you say, Mike, it's had a good reception. On the PlayStation, it's got VR exclusivity for a year, I think. The whole game doesn't have a VR mode. The VR mode is a bonus 3 missions.
Okay.
So I think there's something like 20 missions in the main campaign. Then you can go off and do the VR mode stuff. The game is. Have we described what it is? It's basically a flight game. Probably should have covered that at the top, shouldn't we?
Is it a simulator or is it
No,
arcade?
Luke, it is not.
Oh, I don't.
So if you don't like twiddling knobs and flicking buttons, don't worry, because there's not much of that in this game. It's very much arcadey. You can just.
Right.
I mean, the fact that I could jump in and take down, bogies.
So it's like,
Straight away.
it's like the modern thing of after
with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But although the weird thing is, and the franchise is kind of famous for it, there's a lot of story in it. Considering the missions are, you jump in, you take out the bad guys, dogfighting, things exploding all around you. Then you have a long cut scene. There's a bit of reflection. Some pretty serious story, and there's a lot of twists in the story. I'll just give away an early spoiler, which they've talked about openly. So if you don't want to hear the story, just mute me for 1 minute. Okay. So early on, Trigger is accused of shooting down the ex-president's plane.
No.
And he gets sent to bad pilot prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a real thing.
Well, it's a funny thing because they basically incarcerate him, but they also give him access to fighter jets.
Yeah, well,
So,
Okay.
What else would you do in Oceania or whatever? It's
so he basically gets demoted and he gets grounded on this airbase, and you have to fight your way through the enemies to prove that you didn't do the thing I said. So come back into the room, no more spoilers.
It's the same thing as what happens to kind of Arnie and Sly or whatever in different films when they, get incarcerated or whatever and then end up being given special missions.
No
to
escape.
perform.
Yeah.
No escape.
Did you see the dog?
I saw the dog. So
I love this.
So Andy's alluding to a JPEG of it's a Labrador, I think, or a Golden Retriever.
Yeah.
So there's a cutscene where they've got a JPEG of a Golden Retriever, like pasted onto a CGI cutscene, and to animate it, they've just made it wobble a bit, so it looks like it's panting, and it's Twitter likes
I just
it.
love that. They've just gone, can you do a dog? No. Okay, don't worry, I'll
This is how we avoid crunch. We just paint in it.
clip art, log on the clip art.
But dog aside,
What? Dog aside?
dog aside, dog aside, it's tell you what, it's a cracking game. I'm having a great time with it. I'm not really a big flying guy,
No.
so but the fact this is arcade, you can jump in. There's an expert mode where you can slightly change the controls to make it a bit more difficult and give you a bit more control, but I haven't really dabbled in that because that's a bit beyond me at the moment. But it really captures that sense of speed and being in the air, shooting down the bad guys is really satisfying, especially when your missiles lock on. There's a lot of radio chatter as well. The other pilots are talking to each other and commenting on what's going on, which really adds to the experience. And in the VR mode, it's that times 100 basically. So in VR mode, it's first person only. In the main mode, you can play it first person or third person. So it's first person only, obviously, because it's VR, and you can actually look around the cockpit as you would expect. So it's a lot easier to actually keep tabs on the enemies. But what I would say is the game is very fast, and when you're having close calls in the air, or you're getting close to the ground, or you've just shot someone and you're flying through the wreckage of their plane, it's pretty intense, and I felt very ill. I had a session of a couple of hours, and I
Came out a bit green.
I was really spaced out.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those games where you do need your VR sea legs to actually, to actually get through it. But it's a blast. But whew.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to call out was it's got a really good replay mode. So after you've finished a mission, you can watch the whole thing, a video replay of the whole thing. And then there's also a sort of computer simulated graphic of your route and who you took out, which is really, they've put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah,
It's good. It's a bit like Breath of the Wild, where you in the DLC patch or something, it puts the the paid for DLC, isn't it? It puts like the map of where you've been, so you can see where you've not been.
Yeah,
essentially.
imagine that, but in a 3D space. It's quite cool.
That's cool.
And also, if you fire a missile, you can follow it by pushing. Well, depends what you're playing on, but if you push a button, you can follow the perspective of the missiles
Missile cam.
as it either
Kill
rams
cam.
into an enemy or just veers off into the
Yeah,
sky.
But then does it go back to your plane and you're like diving
Well,
into
no,
the...
it's I mean, obviously, if you did it when you were near the sea or something, it could be bad news. But no, so yeah, I haven't finished it. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's probably a good one for people who haven't played a flight game for a while, because it's probably a bit daunting. The fact it is a long-established franchise. It's got a really loyal fan base who are really committed to it, but you can just jump in like I have. Yeah, I think it's great fun.
Cool. Cheers for that, Jack. So, what else have you guys been? What have you been up to this week? Just in general.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've had a lovely week. Mark. A bit of gardening. I fell over a few times. So I'm still playing almost at the end of Toad's Treasure Tracker,
Wow.
which is an excellent game. I think me and Jack will agree.
I've been telling people this for years. No one's listened to me.
Well, finally you've got someone listening. I wish I hadn't, but on this occasion you were right. It's great. It's just so well designed. It's just so fun. You can just pick it up, play for like half an hour, 40 minutes, and get through a few stages. And just, it's just really good, fun, well-designed, classic Nintendo stuff. And so it kind of like moves you through each chapter, but then like gets to a point where it kind of locks and it makes you go back and do find all the diamonds. So it kind of makes you, at first you're like, oh my goodness, but then it's quite good because I never do that. I just I run through it, and it's maybe kind of like go back and actually revisit stages, look at them differently, like go after the stars, the diamonds. So it's really nice, and then you obviously kind of progress and progress and progress, and every now and then it drops in this little like 2 bonus rounds. So one where you're getting chased by a mummy around a maze like Pac-Man, another one where you're doing like a mega coin run. So you get this little pickaxe on one of them, and it just goes nuts. It's like a disco basically. Toad just goes mental, and you've got to like just get as many coins as possible. And they just occasionally put them in, just drop them in as little sweeteners to keep you interested. So they just very few people do it that well.
Does it have a wobbling JPEG of a dog though? Because
do you know what? That's the one thing I was thinking. Why is this missing?
Yeah. I'm out. I've got off it.
These are golden retriever clip art. Like, what? So it's a don't buy for me.
Look.
So 3 quick things.
That'd
Still playing the original Resident Evil 2. I'm on to Claire's story. I feel very pleased with myself because as Leon, I left the Uzi and the additional like backpack or hip pack. So I'm set up perfectly for Claire's, even though that one is the one that's got the tyrant running around. And you don't really run with tank controls, do you? You kind of just shuffle away. So I'm actually still very much enjoying that. And I want to go through all the B versions of the story as well. Obviously, because the new one's coming out. Bit silly of me, I purchased Monster Hunter World, which is I appreciate is a bit of a time sink, and this close to the other Resident Evil, the new one coming out. So probably should have waited, but I'll leave that maybe till after.
Add it to the shame pile.
Yeah. I have heard scary things about that game. It's a big game. And the final thing is that I was playing the demo or the trial for Call of Duty Blackout. Is it Blackout? Yeah.
Blackout,
which is the battle royale mode. So I wanted to kind of compare this to Fortnite because I played a little bit of Fortnite. This, it is kind of more of a realistic approach, I guess. Still got that kind of Call of Duty arcadey shooting. I'm still dreadful at it. I find these battle royale modes quite daunting because the initial scramble for resources can either be panic-inducing or it can be very boring and nothing happening.
Do you drop where there are other people around, or do you go off on your own?
So I tried both tactics. I don't know if it's the fact that in Blackout the map is a lot smaller, but everywhere I tried to land was quite hotly contested. So there's a lot of random running around doing the melee attacks until like, oh my god, it's a med kit. I can't use that as a weapon.
Penknife.
Yeah, there's always that sigh when you go, oh god, it's not the right thing. I can't use that gun.
But then you get that elation when you do find like oh my god, it's an assault rifle. Yes. Oh, I've been shot. But I do find as well when I'm like, right, I've got a weapon, what do I do now? And then it's a case of like, well, I've got to leave the area that's about to be because as the area shrinks down, I've got to make sure that I'm in a safe zone. So there's a lot of running from place to place. There's no one here, I know there's a sniper somewhere ready to get me type thing. And so you start crawling and you're like, oh my god, the things that on top of me, the area's shrinking. And I guess I haven't developed any tactics yet for Battle Royale games because I've been a bit of a tourist when it comes to them. I've dabbled in a lot, but I haven't really sort of sunk my teeth into any.
I suggest that COD is probably a tough place to start because it's a competitive and very fast-paced game.
Yeah, the combat is incredibly fast. I did manage to take someone out who was riding up to me on a quad bike. It was blind firing. I was like, strafing and firing, and they fell off and died. And I was like,
jeez.
Yes.
Nice.
And then I got killed.
Upload that one to Twitter.
Yeah, very dangerous quad bikes. So it's not surprising, really, is it? I think it's one of those games, isn't it, COD, where it's unless the kind of matches well, you got no chance, have you? And this one's a lot easier because you don't have the camper aspect as bad in Battle Royale, do you? It's a bit more kind of
the time to kill though is still very quick. So like if you get sort of discovered, it's like oh, you're done. And then if like right, I've got to go out, I have to have a quick look at the spectator, I have to find a new match, join that match, and here we go. There's not that sense of, I mean, in Fortnite I find it quite nice that I'm on the peripherals, I'll scrounge around, there's lots of stuff, here we go, I'm on my way in and I'm creating my own little sort of story within a single match, whereas this one is just so quick.
It's not brutal,
I don't have much of a chance to.
A lot more brutal, like and like that kind of robs a bit of the fun of it, doesn't it? Really, like, but
I think for me, it's probably my favourite of the battle royale games.
Yeah.
Well, you managed to win one.
Actually, no, that's all. I've won a Fortnite match and a PUBG match. I've never won a Blackout match. But for me, Fortnite, I'm not good at the building stuff.
Speed building.
Yeah, speed building. I see people building like forts in front of me, I think, and I'm just there trying to put two sticks together. PUBG was just filled with people who were a lot better than I was, but for some reason, Blackout, I found it a lot more instant to get into.
I wonder if this is obviously the free weekend you were playing. Do you reckon they'll roll Blackout out as a free?
I think this might be prepping people for when the next Call of Duty comes out. It might not include a Battle Royale mode, but that is kind of like a paid-for service. Or it might be free to play, but then obviously cosmetics.
Microtransaction or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll do the Battle Pass like Fortnite. Cool. I've just briefly, I've been playing Y2K, a postmodern RPG, which is a little bit like a JRPG, but done with a kind of modern slant to it. It's set in the 90s, or 1999, so just before the year 2000 came along, and it's all about that run up to it.
I was going to say it must have been around 2000.
There's the main character is this fella called Alex, who's like every kind of cliche of your kind of American student from that era. And he goes into this, comes home to his hometown. His mum's kind of disappeared, gets this weird phone call, goes to this factory to chase. Basically, a cat is on the road. You end up going exploring as you do at the start of adventure games, RPGs, and you find a cat that then runs away from you. You run after the cat, and you end up in this weird meta universe.
Weird video game logic. His mum's missing. I'm going to run after a cat.
Yeah.
Well, his mum's not missing. She's just not home from work. But then she's never home from work. It's that kind of like strange.
Has she been turned into a
Twin
cat?
Peaksy style almost.
Oh, spoilers!
Spoiler alert.
And then you find this girl who lives in this weird factory. And anyway, that's just the first few minutes of it. But yeah,
a lot happens.
So the last RPG we played was what's it called? The one on Switch, Octopath Traveler. And in comparison, that was very like fast paced for a JRPG, and there was a lot to do in the combat. This one is like a lot more ponderous and slow, but a lot more deliberate. So the combat is this is what it means by postmodern RPG, I suppose. But you've got a record, like a vinyl, as your weapon, and when you attack, a little turntable comes on, and you have to stop. You have to press the button like a rhythm game at the certain points on the record, and that chains combos. And another character has a camera, and you again like a roll of film comes out, and it has rhythm things to. And another one has a guitar. Anyway, so unfortunately it does mean that every time you attack, it's a really long sequence. The whole game is just a bit overly long, including the load times between when you go into combat or even into different buildings. Like, you want it to just be very snappy, and instead it's
sluggish.
Slow. Yeah, you even get the thing it's probably even more annoying than waiting is it a little number in the bottom left. It's like counts up to 100. It's like 1. It's like those old Windows things.
No.
1, 2, 3, 30, 40, and there's no like rhyme or reason to it. It just kind of goes up to 100.
It's like a software update.
So
time.
All of that I think it needed maybe a little bit more polish before they brought it out, and a little bit more just tightening up and speeding up. But the general premise is really good, and I've described the plot really badly, but it is interesting.
No, you haven't. I've got it. Man's mum goes missing, turns into a cat. Weird going factory.
The mum hasn't turned into a cat. The cat's its own entity.
No, it's like a cat from a space movie. Do you remember that? Like the cat that came from outer space. Remember that?
No one remembers.
No.
That was a good movie.
Good movie, great movie.
I think it was Disney.
The people who made Howard the Duck. But no, it's interesting, but it's a very just a little bit too kind of slow between things, and just the way that over time starts to sort of gnaw.
Was this on Switch? Did you say?
Yeah, this is on Switch. I think it might also be on PC.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I've been playing the PC version. And the other game I've been just to touch on, I've been playing is Lumines, which I've never played before, but it's awesome. And that's all you need to know. I think about that. It's a Tetris type game.
I've got that too. Yeah,
been around the block a few times. Pun. It's about blocks. And yeah, it's just really, really great. But everyone kind of knows that I've been a bit late to the show. I think
I've always looked at that, and I've heard great things, and obviously you've said it's good. I've tried it and I just can't get my head around it because I'm expecting Tetris.
You've got to get into the
your
rhythm.
brain has
of
to
it.
train
Yeah.
into the way of it. I think I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better.
Play sessions can last quite a long time as well,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're just
pretty
like
much my entire journey to work.
yeah,
one
yeah,
go.
yeah. But yeah, it's all about like, you know, getting everything lined up for then the next wipe across, so then you can line up for more for then the next wipe.
Okay.
So you've got to kind of get into the rhythm
Get ready for the
of
next
how
wipe.
the wipes are progressing across. So there's a pro tip for you.
Anyway,
Okay.
that was,
Wipe responsibly.
that was a way too long what we've been playing session. But anyway, on to the week's news, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the
sorry, that
authority. All right, so I guess the news that broke just kind of the back end of last week was that EA has cancelled another Star Wars game. So the story goes that Project Ragtag, which was the Amy Hennig project, was cancelled about 6 months ago or something now, might be a bit longer than that.
Well, it became awkward, didn't it?
And then that became this game that has now also been cancelled. So it was pivoted to become a kind of Destiny-like game.
Yeah.
And now that's been cancelled and it's been pivoted, as they call it, to become like a sort of more single-player focused game, which I think might actually be good news.
That's what I'm waiting for.
They're saying it's to get it out earlier, basically.
Yeah.
because they
Third
want-
person
they want some
lightsaber
games out the door.
hack and slash done. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars isn't that hard when you think about it, really. If you can get a good game on it, you know, it can be a single-player fun experience. I reckon they probably looked at God of War and gone, okay, maybe we can do that. However, God of War probably took a long time to develop, definitely took a long time to develop, and had a lot of polish applied to it to be that good. Whereas, can this game be as good as that?
I mean, you're also going to have quite a critical fan base, aren't you, when you're dealing with props like that?
And EA, obviously, you know, they now have 2 games that they've cancelled. There's only so much goodwill, I suppose, amongst gamers. But so this game will have to live up to that expectation too, which is tricky.
It's like they're doing a Grand Designs, isn't it? They've sacked builders twice. And now one of them's pregnant.
They're living
and
in a
it's
caravan.
raining and they're living in a caravan. It's like, just make the blooming house. We want to play the house.
You want to play the house?
Yes.
Mike, aren't you one of the few people who saw 1313?
I did, yeah. So
That looked great.
that was at E3, yeah. So it was really cool actually. They'd mocked up this entire like elevator.
It's like Grand Designs.
Which was designed to look like Coruscant, and the idea was you were going down into the depth of Coruscant. Cause it's, I don't know, it's to level 1313, I suppose, appropriately. So if people don't know about Star Wars, Coruscant is where like the Empire is, and it's where the whole planet, all the way to its core, is a city or something, isn't it? I think that's about right, if I know my Star Wars.
For people who don't know Star Wars, congratulations on a life well spent.
Gloss over now. Yeah, so it was really good, and the game at the time, in my memory, looked like the best game I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure if I was to be in that room now with what I've seen since, it wouldn't look as good as God of War, for example, just to pull a game
But this
out
was
of the
like
air.
5 years ago. How long ago?
You know what, I can't remember.
Might
what
be
it
longer
was.
than that. It was before the current gen, wasn't it?
It was the last time that Nintendo had a stage show at E3. I remember that. So yeah, you're probably talking about 6 or 7 years ago by now. So yeah, there's no way that game looked as good as it feels like in my memory.
Yeah.
It was the one. It wasn't obvious from the press conference, but I think it was going to be the one where you were Boba Fett, wasn't it?
Okay.
Because that was the point of the game, I think. But yeah, that was another kind of, so that got lost when Disney bought out the Star Wars license, basically.
Yeah.
And then EA in was it 2013, I think, bought the rights to the Star Wars license, and since have only actually managed to release Battlefield 1 and 2. So it's and some mobile games.
Battlefront.
Battlefront. Yeah. So it's kind of about time that they had some games in the Star Wars license. Obviously, they have got Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which we'll be talking about next week when we do our preview of 2019. But yeah, for this particular game, so they kind of say, we're fully committed. This is a EA response to Kotaku breaking this news of the game being cancelled. And they say, we're fully committed to making more Star Wars games. We're very excited about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from Respawn, and we'll share more about new projects when the time is right. But yeah, they don't really say very much about this new game, like what's going to happen to it. Yeah, who knows?
Why?
They say the great work by our team in Vancouver continues and will evolve into future Star Wars content and games.
But they very much said, didn't they? We want something. It was going to take too long, and we need something sooner that's more accessible. So they clearly looked at it and gone, this thing is massive. It's going to take an absolute age to do. Let's cut our losses and let's just make something much faster and see what we can salvage. But by the sounds of it, but it seems like they've now got 3 separate sets of assets kicking around out there of varying degrees of age and usefulness. And what sort of Frankenstein
it's a
monster
bit like,
are they going to get out of that?
It's like the
Be a
Duke
mobile
Nukem
game.
Forever. It's what happened to Duke Nukem Forever. The technology, by the
That
time
turned out all right.
they couldn't get it out in time, and every time it came to a release kind of window, the ballpark had shifted in terms of what people expected from gameplay and graphics. And then they couldn't release it, and they just couldn't release it, and in the end, like you say, it ended up stunning.
I'm so desperate for a decent single-player Star Wars game. I think I'd play anything at this point. On last week, it was Awesome Games Done Quick, and someone ran the Phantom Menace game on PS1.
I was in that game.
I played that. Because, I mean, I was even looking at that thing. I might play that again. Actually, just for I just want a Star Wars game. That's all I want. Is it too much to ask, Mike?
I picked up the
Yes.
Battlefront 2. I've not played it yet, but it was cheap on PSN, so I picked that up just to see what the campaign's like. But yeah, you're right. It's been too long. All I want is something where you can have good lightsaber, like.
What was the Jedi Academy? Those were pretty good, weren't they?
That was the last hurrah, and there was also was it Rebellion, which was like the first person shooter, where for once I don't think you were a Jedi. Anyway,
like Force Awakens was. Who did that? Was that
the Star Wars one?
Disney,
oh, Force Unleashed? No,
Force Unleashed.
Oh, no,
Force Unleashed. That's it.
That was EA, I think, wasn't it?
There was 2 of them, wasn't there?
Maybe?
1 and 2.
I don't know,
Yeah.
actually.
And you played a bad. You played the dark side.
Yeah, you
Jedi,
were a
wasn't it?
naughty boy.
You naughty Jedi.
you were a naughty boy.
I think you fought Darth Vader in some bits of it. Or
I think you
something.
turned to the good side at the end or something like that. Oh, spoiler.
Oh, doesn't it always happen? Netflix. This is something you were put on our agenda, Andy.
Yeah.
News just in. So Netflix has kind of it had its latest earnings report, and it said we compete with and lose to Fortnite more than HBO. So HBO, for a non-American audience, is kind of the big TV, one of the big TV stations in America, and they have their own sort of competitor to Netflix that you can access in the US. So yeah, they see Fortnite because of like the YouTube and Twitch angle as being more competitive than its actual competitors.
Well, I actually think there is the kind of YouTube and Twitch side. I actually think it's the hours. They're losing hours of time when people are actually spending box sets. They're going off and playing Fortnite.
Or just watching other people play.
Watching other people play Fortnite. But what's quite interesting as well, isn't it? That's quite very focused on a certain audience. But it's probably the first time I've ever heard a media company say specifically, I'm losing time to a game.
Yeah, certainly.
So it's very much like, you very rarely will hear like Sky or the BBC say, oh, the latest Attenborough didn't do well because people were out playing Call of Duty. Well, that's kind of a stupid example, but it's kind of, it is an acknowledgement of like this cultural phenomenon which actually these people are now competing with, and they've got to think about themselves in that landscape. They can't just go, our gaming's off on this side. So it's actually kind of real kind of reinforcing of what we've been saying, obviously about the size of the industry, but also the impact it has, and the way things like Fortnite can actually become genuine competitors to like sport, to all these kind of things, and that feels quite significant to me, really. It's quite interesting. It just caught my eye.
No, I think it is.
They should start streaming Fortnite on Netflix.
Job
done.
Yeah,
You know what? Probably people would watch it through.
Well, that's the
as
thing.
well.
But also, I was thinking about this, and a lot of people have Netflix on whilst they're gaming, right? Especially with Fortnite, which you can do whilst you're focusing on something else at the same time. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of downtime. But if you get killed at the start and you want to remain in the server and you want to watch to the conclusion, I suppose you could have 2 things on at once.
Yeah.
But we are not far off an esports rights package being really, really valuable, someone picking it up, and probably one of these new contenders, because I think probably it would be a while before Sky thinks it's viable for its audience, but one of these new contenders, Amazon or whatever, they'll pick up an esports league or something like that, and it will be big buzz.
Well, ESPN does show Dota 2 in the States, and obviously the Overwatch league's really well watched as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's quite made it to TV yet, but
there was a big push for that, wasn't there?
In terms of its Twitch and all the rest, like live streaming, it's really huge now. Like the Overwatch League matches, and people attend it in their thousands too, which is incredible.
Yeah. It's weird because you can't really play a competition with Fortnite, because of the sort of random aspect of it, it's not really conducive to.
Well, they do it.
Stuff.
It's obviously personal invitation, that's how they do those things.
And obviously, Netflix have been experimenting with their own choose your own adventure style games, haven't they? So there's been that Minecraft one, Bandersnatch, obviously, which is obviously it's quite basic and rudimentary, but they are veering into it, I think.
Do you see they're getting sued by Choose Your Own Adventures of a Bandersnatch?
Oh, I did see that.
I mean, like, how, a choice is not, like...
It's not copyright.
It's not copyright choice.
Although, to be fair, they did call it a choose your own adventure style.
Yeah, right,
that's
style, though.
God. Takes me back anyway to those books. They were cool. On the Fortnite subject, the first Fortnite player to achieve 100,000 eliminations happened just a couple of days ago. This is High Distortion, not Ninja, who you probably might have thought. So Ninja is second on the all-time list. But yeah, this fella, High Distortion, is an American who is in the top 2 to 3 players in the world. He's making huge, loads of Twitch followers and all that kind of stuff. So he's doing really well for himself. But yeah, he's. So I guess the difference here in the challenge is he doesn't really play to win, although his win rate's still about 20% of the matches he plays.
I don't play to win either.
Yeah, but he basically plays just to get as many eliminations in each match as he can get. So it's just a different way to play the game, I suppose. But yeah, it's as I say, it's pretty nuts. On Twitter, he put out like his 100th kill. So this hapless fellow has kind of gone down in history. I actually didn't quite get the guy's name. But I say fellow, it could be equally could be a lady. So there you go. But yeah, it's just a cool, so many Fortnite records. It changes all the time as well. It's just so competitive, so many people playing it. But yeah, it's going to be a while till anyone else gets to 100,000, I think. And by that point, he'll have long gone over the horizon, I suppose. And yeah, last thing on the news, the Resident Evil 2 scores from the sort of general games press have started to trickle in now. By the time this comes out, we're recording this 2 days before we go live. Obviously, everyone's review will be out by that point. But yeah, weirdly, so it's had 8 reviews so far, including 6 Axis and the Daily Telegraph and things like that. So it's quite a few of some of the more reputable places. But yeah, it's got the exact same review score as the PS1 original does. Of, 93.13%. So who knows which way that'll go.
I reckon that'll probably go up as we see.
Maybe.
I think it will probably. I think it could well be challenging Resident Evil 4 for the crown.
Yeah, it could do. But yeah, I just thought that was quite funny just looking at it. It's the exact same. That's on game rankings that we take our scores from. But yeah, we usually wait until we kind of create a record until at least 20 reviews have come in. So I guess we'll see.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see.
Cool. Okay, this week's letter from Anthony in London. It says, I listened to your show a couple of weeks ago when you all said you don't have a Nintendo Switch Online account. But with rumours swirling about Super Nintendo games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online soon, is that enough to tempt you? So this all kind of goes to these rumours that some hackers, as they're always called in these situations, managed to sort of analyse some of the code from the Switch. And it turns out that the Switch Online has kind of 4 emulators working for it. So one is the NES games that you can already play. And then the rumour is that another one is the Super Nintendo games. And then there's 2 more, which, no one quite knows what they are. The rumour goes to be an N64. So the 2 big rumours are obviously N64 and GameCube. However, it could just as equally be the Mega Drive Genesis in the States, or Turbo Graphics, or I don't know.
Could be anything.
Could be all sorts.
The Wii Virtual
Game
Library.
Boy even?
Well, the Wii Virtual Library had everything on it. It had Commodore 64 in it and some quite obscure stuff.
Yeah, and just because there's only 4 on there now doesn't mean they can just patch extra ones in anyway. So
I could go for some Arkanoid if it's got
Super Arkanoid.
Good.
So I guess to get back to the question, I mean, what would it take to? I mean, in fact, it's not even that expensive, the Switch Online thing. But there's none of the Nintendo, the NES games I'm that interested in right now.
I am subscribed to it.
Oh, okay.
It's £18.
Yeah, I didn't realise any of us were actually.
So the NES library, so they kind of trickle through with that stuff. I think you get 2 or 3 a month, so it's not a huge amount. But there's obviously some classic games in there, and they also do special editions. So there's a special edition of the original Zelda, which starts you off with more hearts and some items.
And right at the end of the game, is that right?
Yeah. Which is quite good actually, because some of these old games are brutal, especially if you're playing them for the first time. But for me, I was thinking about this last week when we were talking about it, and the SNES. I would love to see SNES games on there, but I've got a SNES Mini under my telly, which I don't touch that off from.
Yeah, but if it was on the go on your,
I would happily play Link to the Past on the go on the train. That'd be awesome. That's all I want. I want that and the Star Wars game and what else did I say?
I still love that game.
You don't need to be online to access Nintendo Switch.
It does odd check-ins like every couple of weeks just to make sure you're still subscribed, but it doesn't do it every time.
So are you downloading the games then? You
them. So you have the library. It's a application on the home screen. You click on it, and then all the games there, they're downloaded locally onto your Switch, so you don't need a connection once you've got them.
Okay.
That's actually quite good, isn't it?
Yes, you should pay for it. It's 18 quid.
I think my biting point would probably be Super Nintendo. However, it'd be really cool to get N64 and GameCube. I just can't imagine GameCube games.
I think it's got to be GameCube.
Somehow. I just can't see it happening.
Neither can I.
There's a lot of really good GameCube games lost in like just, I don't know, like the ether of games at the moment. It's like these, Metal Gear Twin Snakes and there's
Eternal
Darkness.
I have that as well.
I have that, yeah.
With the sanity meter.
I mean, I have that and a GameCube at home, so I could just play it. But but it's something about the Switch being, like you say, in your bag, you're on your commute or whatever, that I know I definitely get back to some of those games a lot more frequently than I do.
I don't know. This confuses me really. I mean, we've all got the shame pile. We've all got the wrapped in cellophane. Games that are brand new, we still haven't played. Yeah, we're going to go, do you know what? I'll play a game from like 15, 20 years ago that probably is all right, but wholly hasn't aged well. I don't know.
But it's a lesser commitment for those older games. They're very much sort of like I can jump in and play through as far as I can get a Contra and then die, and then, I'm at my destination.
Plus, a lot of those games, like Contra is a good example, you can play through it in about half an hour if you're good at it. Well, I'm sure a lot faster if you're really good at it.
10 minutes is all I need.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you're forgetting you're an old man, and I'm here to remind you of that.
What?
And a lot of these games, some people have never played them the first time around. There's a lot of new players.
This is really true.
There's a lot of new players who the Switch might be their first or second console. They've never played Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah,
and I think for a lot of those people, it's really interesting to go back and play those older games.
It probably is. But I mean, you go like, shall I play another game on Fortnite, or shall I dust down the SNES?
We're never gonna win every round.
I do think they also need to sort of improve the online service a bit as well, basically for like matchmaking in games and everything like that, because it's a bit confusing and all over the place.
That is true. When you do start making, because part of the subscription is it means you can play games online, which was free beforehand. It was fine for it to be a little bit slapdash or whatever, but is that a bit mean? I don't know. But a little bit, sometimes a bit like laggy or not quite balanced in the way the play, that kind of thing, the player skill levels. When you start charging for it, you need to get that right, like, Xbox Live is.
Yeah, definitely.
So, it's a tricky one for Nintendo. Yeah, but back to the letter, I think my biting point would probably be Super Nintendo games. To have them on the fly would be worth it for me, I think, especially if they keep the price at what it is.
I could definitely see the link to the past, like something like that. Because it is really annoying getting the SNES Mini out, setting it up. It's like
first world
it's
problems.
At least 2 lives.
It's like 2 minutes of my life that I'm never going to get back.
Don't have enough sockets on my extension.
I've already maxed my HDMI cables out, my sockets out. So I don't know. I mean, I think that would maybe vaguely interest me, but nah.
Okay,
it's a no from Andy.
It's a hard no.
Cool. That was our letter. Thanks for writing in. If you want to write in, it's probably easier just to tweet us. Actually, we are at GWR Gamers. Just number your tweets, link them all together, whatever, and we'll pick them up, and you can be part of the show. Luke, it is time for our On the Record section.
So on the record, we are doing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, so I mean, just briefly before we start, so the trailer and the kind of reveal of the game came out this week. Looks
there's a lot
really
of footage
lovely.
Coming up. There's a
lots
lot
of flowers
fatalities.
And,
I'm seeing a lot of brains.
Yes.
All of a sudden. Well, a lot of excitement from the sort of fighting game community. Just sort of like. Ooh.
It's weird that they go to such lengths now for the fatalities, isn't it? Like it's really what all the game is about. I mean, I know like the actual fighting is quite nuanced as well, especially compared to what it maybe used to be back in the Super Nintendo days in the arcades.
Well, these sort of games and the Mortal Kombat ones and the Injustice ones are known for being very fast, combo string heavy games. They're not that accessible. I think 11 is trying to be accessible, but the previous one, 10, was just there was so much you needed to know and get right, and button timings again was just you have to be so fast on your controller. It was unreal. You need a stick. You definitely need a stick. Anyway, on the record. On the record.
Right. Everyone needs a stick.
I mean, the way you said it was.
You need. So the first one we got here is the highest earning Mortal Kombat player.
Ooh.
And that is Dominique Sonic Fox McLean from the USA, who has earned $253,343.60.
Okay.
As verified by esportsearnings.com on the 21st of January this year.
Oh, right.
Wow.
Sonic Fox is cool. So he's like amazing at so many games. So I don't know if you made any more of
Dragon Ball is his other one, I think.
Yeah, and I think there's like it's like BlazBlue. It could be BlazBlue. I can't remember now. There's at least another one that he's like really really amazing at. And Injustice, of course, too. So he's like one of he's pretty much, I would say, the best esports fighting player in the world, just because the amount of games he plays. Like,
true, yeah. I wanted to say also that the previous holder of this record, Giuseppe Ario Russo, earned only 21,236 by playing Mortal Kombat 9. So Sonic Fox made his name by playing Mortal Kombat X or 10. And therefore has seen a 1,092% increase in potential earnings.
Wow.
After only one iteration of the franchise.
Wow.
Do you think that shows that Mortal Kombat's more popular, or just esports is more popular?
I mean, because the reboot, Mortal Kombat 9, was a very popular game, but yes, the sort of esports scene wasn't, it was still very much a sort of underground scene at that point. But since like 10 and the newer generation of consoles,
it's sponsorship money coming in, I suppose, isn't it? Because you stream on Twitch or whatever else you stream on, and you can advertise, and that's where the money comes in from the competitions, just like the darts or whatever. You know,
he's also a good representative for the industry because he's got a great character, and he seems like a decent guy.
He's a furry as well, which is really funny. He has the blue, the blue thing that he's like his iconic thing that he wears, and he really wears. He's absolutely awesome.
He wears what?
Like a blue.
He wears a big hat.
Yeah, basically a big blue hat.
Big blue hat.
Yeah, he's in, like, obviously I was in the books, and we had a photo shoot with him in the 2018 edition, I think, as well. So yeah, he's like kind of a friend of the show. I say friend. We're probably never going to get him in, won't we, to afford to fly him in from the States.
He never writes. But
he never writes. No, but he does retweet us, which is nice. But yeah, I say, it's such a. He also won at the Video Game Awards, like the most trending esports player or something this year. So there you go. So yeah, good old Dominic.
So on to the next one. What do we have for you? The first video game to be uncensored by a cheat code.
Oh.
And that's Mortal Kombat, the original one, but for the Sega Genesis or the Mega Drive in Europe. This version of the game had all the blood and fatalities removed, unless when you are on the Code of Honor screen, you tap in ABACABB. The text will go red, Scorpion will go, get over here, and all the blood and grim fatalities will be put back in.
Wow.
Does anyone remember doing that?
Yeah. I bet they released that code on purpose, right? Because they must have known that'd be a huge selling point if you could.
Well, because it got removed, well, not entirely removed, but the redness of the blood was changed to blue for the Super Nintendo.
Well, it was more. It was like kind of like creamy green, and it was like
being green.
Well, it was creamy colour, but like a bit like sick. Like it was,
it
basically
that's worse.
It was like the sweat being knocked off you, basically. But yeah, like the Super Nintendo game, in my opinion, was the much better version of the two of them. Graphically, and the controls were a lot tighter. It always seemed to me, because my mate had a Mega Drive version of it, but then he always had bragging rights because he had blood in it.
But where is he now, though?
I don't know. He's probably happily playing his blood-filled Mega Drive. These days, you can just get like the main version of it or something, can't you?
I also have a little fun fact.
I love fun facts.
So ABACAB is a reference to a 1981 album released by the band Genesis. So that was the reference.
Didn't quite work in our country with the Mega Drive, did it? Also, that would have been Phil Collins' country.
It would. That's violence for your ears, not for your Mortal Kombat characters.
I remember back in the day when I was a very stupid boy, there was an April Fool in like an official Nintendo magazine or something like that.
Right.
And it was to get blood in the Super Nintendo version, which was impossible. Can't do it. However, there was a thing where if you strapped, they basically said if you strapped a penny to the top of the cartridge with sellotape, and then had this like outrageously complicated code to put in about like a split second, that you could unlock blood. And I must have tried that. I fell hook, line, and sinker. I must have tried it about like 100 times. I don't know.
Such a tragic image of you, little Mike hunched over
I
his...
didn't even know what an April Fool was.
you were an April Fool.
And I still am to this day.
Rule, bravo to the
Yeah,
team.
You know what? I don't even know if then in the next issue, because I don't think I ever bought it, if they ever said, cause it's not like it was before the internet was invented.
They must have had loads of letters from kids saying,
This doesn't work.
What magazine was it?
I think it was like the official. There was that period of time when it was like there was Mega Mean Machines, something
yes.
called, and then there was these are UK magazines for anyone who's going like I've never heard of these. And then there was like the official Nintendo one, which kind of in the end that magazine split into the official Sega and the official Nintendo, and I think it was in one of that kind of strand of magazines.
I guess whichever one it was, they're not around anymore. So you've had the last laugh.
Yes, but no.
Take That magazine.
It wasn't in Take That magazine.
That stayed with me. That was the other magazine I bought that week. Now it's well before Take That even. God, this is going back a long time, isn't it? But yeah, that's that memory of me like blistering my thumbs trying to put that code in. It's stuck with me. We got one more record, I think.
One more for you. And this is the most critically acclaimed movie based on a video game. Can you guess the movie?
Wait, I've seen this movie and it's not
from 1995, Mortal Kombat.
Is that really the most critically?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, it's even got like a better percentage than the new Tomb Raider film, which wasn't that bad.
It was alright.
It's got
however, better than Mortal Kombat, I would suggest.
It's got a brilliant line in it which will stick with me forever. And the guy playing M. Bison, was that one of his last roles?
You're thinking of Street Fighter. You're thinking of Raul Julia.
I am thinking of Street Fighter.
That had Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile. I love
Kylie.
I'd say that is a better film than...
This one had, Mortal Kombat had Christopher Lambert, Highlander, as Raiden.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he with the white hair, didn't he? Was like...
And the guy going, I will eat your soul.
It's like, well,
brilliant. Wow. Joe, I've just realised I've never seen that film. I never intend to.
So. Well, it's most critically.
You should. It had a critical.
We need to watch it. Really.
Had an aggregate score of 58%.
Wow.
So we haven't had a video game movie surpass that from 12 critic reviews.
See, I can see how the Resident Evil franchise might not quite have got that, but there's been like Rampage I watched the other day was quite good.
It's only 40-odd%, I think. But here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Do we hope that the Detective Pikachu movie will topple this?
You've got to hope. They released the new trailer recently, didn't they? Or just this week, where it shows him farting, doesn't it? Shows Pikachu farting.
Sold.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's either that or the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Have you seen the Super Mario one, or I saw that there's a Monster Hunter. Movie.
However, it's by the director of Resident Evil.
The Uncharted movie has got a director now, hasn't it?
And Tom Holland's.
Tom Holland, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Tom Holland's playing young Drake.
Yeah, because it's based.
Really?
Yeah, it's on a prequel, I guess, from the games.
What's the other one? There's Tom Hardy has been attached to like a franchise for a few years. I can't remember what the name.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I know what you mean, but it escapes me completely.
But yeah, surely at some point something, especially this year with these films coming out, something's got to cruise past 58%.
It's got to be Pikachu.
Got to be Pikachu.
It's got to be, right?
Fingers crossed.
Put your money on Pikachu.
Maybe Disney will make a Star Wars movie based on the EA's attempt to make a Star Wars game.
Would that count? I don't think that would count.
The game that never was.
You know what? I think we've reached the end of the show. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, so no time for the boss fight quiz this week. We've got a skedaddle.
Let's just assume that we won.
Well,
What a victory.
What you mean by default?
I think more likely you lost. It's like when you remember in the pools when the game got cancelled and they just choose if it was a home win or an away win.
No.
We could flip a coin if you like.
But yeah, thanks so much for listening. If you want to keep up with our Twitter channel, then we are at GWR Gamers. And if you've got any questions, like I say, for listener letters, please let us know that way. I've been Mike Plant at Mike Plant GC. This is Luke Wakeham.
at MinMaxLuke.
Jack Turner.
At QLC Jack.
And Andy Lucklin.
At Media Scribbles.
And I should also say that you can check out our content on YouTube or on iTunes and many other places for Android users. Just Google us and you'll find the content. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Sorry.
I should say,
going a bit early.
That is our 2019 preview, so look out for that as well. So yeah. All right. Until next week. See you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.